Welcome to the Breakthrough Autism Podcast, Part 2 with Joan Brodo, clinician and longtime extraordinaire BCBAD who's been in the field for over 20 years, working at Launch Behavioral Health as a clinical supervisor and manager. Today we're going to be talking about capacity building and supervision. Welcome back, Joan.
Thank you for having me.
So, excited to talk to you about how we help the field grow, because there are so many families, children, individuals in need across Ontario, Canada, North America, and beyond, who are in need of behavior analysis. And what does that mean for those that may be, just tuning in? It's really about learning fundamental skills that matter. And a big question that has evolved within our community, and I suppose it's a good question to have, is, the word's out when it comes to ABA. Yeah. It's effective, and we can help a lot of different people in this world. What comes with that is demand.
Yes.
And there are challenges related to demand that we're facing right here in Ontario and well beyond. And it's a question that we often talk about is, how do we help many people as possible in a quality way? This is really tricky. We don't want to overextend ourselves, because why is it popular? Why is there demand? It's because it works.
Right.
So it's that dynamic of growing as a field and helping as many people as possible. And that's what I want to chat with you about today, because you have a lot of experience with this. Look, just straight up for people that are tuning in, there is no one answer here or magic pinpoint here that is going to solve this challenge. It's evolving, and it starts with experiences and conversations around that, and you have that. And so, you've been in the field a long time, and sometimes we get answers from where we've been, right? And so to contextualize this for people, how did you get your start? Where did it all get going for you? And then we'll kind of go from there in terms of how do we help the next generation?
For sure. So I think I started probably like most of us who've been in the field for a while, just seeing an ad at my university. It was a paper ad stapled to a wall looking for a therapist to work with a 4-year-old girl with autism. Answered that ad. And at that time, I don't know if you remember, Nancy, I was living in BC.
Yes.
And we had to fly consultants from the US to oversee programming. So a lot of the individuals came from California at that time, the UCLA program, that's right. I started working with this girl. I fell in love with just the one-on-one sort of nature of it. At that time, it was already very fun, very engaging. I love the structure of it, just because it's, like I didn't have to think a lot about like what I'm doing, right? Like you have a series of programs, you have the script, you kind of just go in and have fun, really, at that time. So I think from there, after a few years, we had a couple of some of the first behavior analysts in BC returning from the States.
Nice.
So one of them, I can say names here, I guess.
Absolutely.
Who I consider one of my first mentors.
And influences, for sure.
So her name is Sharon Baxter. She's still in BC. She actually went to Teachers College, which is the same program that I ended up going to.
Nice.
I think when she came back and really brought the science with her and really, then I think my eyes just like open up to be like, wow, like there's a whole science behind this. This is not just a series of programs that I get to run. And she really got me interested in learning more. And that's how I sort of ended up in the field until now.
Started. So with your experiences and how you got started in the field, mentorship was really, really key there. And I've had very similar experiences myself, as I chatted about. And, within that, I think it's going to be a key piece for our future when it comes to quality services and even building capacity. So With your experiences, I know you've been mentored, but you've also done a lot of mentorship yourself, Joan, and thanks to you for doing that across North America, really, because you've practiced in many different areas. Thoughts on mentorship and how that can work within all of these dynamics to support quality services and building capacity?
Yeah, for sure. So I see supervision and mentorship as almost one. I don't think we can talk about clinical supervision without the mentorship aspect, just because it does include a lot of that involvement of being a supervisor, but also part of that is being a mentor. And I see that with, individuals who are going through sort of more like a graduate degree to become board certified behavior analysts.
Yeah.
But I think, apply the same sort of principles with students who are starting out early in their career, whether they're not sure yet what they want to do, or students who are going through some of the great college programs here in Ontario in the ABA field already. And I think with supervision, that is my opportunity to teach future generations of BCBAs and clinicians like good clinical skills.
Yes.
Right. And the mentorship aspect with that is making sure that, it's not just about business, as in like, this is what you have to do from a clinical standpoint, but also supporting their journey in figuring out what they want to do in their career, and also supporting them in sort of making decisions about what they want to do, and hopefully pursue this field, because it is a great field. I think I will say that I've had some team members at Launch, where I work right now, who started working as instructor therapists, never knew what ABA was all about, and now some of them are actually pursuing graduate degrees in ABA.
Yeah.
And I think that's all from the supervision and the mentorship that we provide, and I'm very proud of what we've done so far. We've also had many staff members who've never had any AB experience. A lot of them might have done like summer camps and helping out with kids, and they see like, I just want to work with children, and end up staying and working as, whether it's instructor therapist or considering this field as future career. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
But I think that kind of goes with capacity building.
It sure does. And there's so many layers to what you shared, in terms of, even as you're talking, I'm thinking like, it's so necessary to have these types of relationships that where it is, I agree with you. Mentorship and supervision are one and the same. Right. And the beautiful thing is you take individuals, people, early on in their careers, I say early, but even or switching careers or whatever it may be. Yeah. And, we can help guide people through this profession from just like we did, actually. It's a very common experience. And whether it's, 20 plus years ago or whether it's now, it's still the same in the sense of we really started entry level, not really knowing much about the field, grew in experience in terms of that frontline application, and we see that a lot, and you're getting that hands-on experience, and it kind of, you get like kind of you catch the bug for it, and you're like, this is actually really cool, and it's amazing that you can make such an impact. And then for not all, but for some, the interest in pursuing further studies and beyond. The key piece to me here as you're talking is the mentorship. Yeah. And, for anybody who may be watching that's conceiving, even at a policy level or capacity level, or, just has, different angles in terms of how we're going to help, in our cases, service kids with autism, but even beyond that, help, service people with ABA. Yeah. You got to think about the mentorship. There's just, it's so critical in so many aspects, skill development and quality of services delivery, but also professional development. Yeah. You can't just start, and these are important too. You can't just have these academic programs. Right. They themselves cannot exist in a silo without the mentorship. For sure. You really need that. So, food for thought for people. And I'm always thinking about this, like, how do we further encourage that? I don't know if you have thoughts on that, because you know, and I know, and we love it, but it is an investment.
Right.
Both.
For sure.
For the mentee and the mentor,
Yeah.
right? So I've always been impressed because you do a lot of this and we've had many conversations about this. Do you have thoughts about, you know, even at a larger systems level, like what can we do to encourage mentorship? Because it is so necessary. It's fundamental to what we do.
Yeah, and I think if we look at mentorship and supervision as like one, it's really what's going to, the output of that is the client progress, right? By providing quality supervision / mentorship, then we provide quality services because it kind of all boils down into that. So I think just encouraging, I think I also see it as my service to the profession.
Yeah.
I've gotten so much out of the field of ABA. This is like my career, basically. I've been mentored by, I think like you, many like amazing individuals and teachers and supervisors and whatnot. I think me providing mentorship and supervision is also my way back, my way of giving back to the community. So I always see it as that. It is part of that is the service to the whole profession. But I think really we have to also, you know, we know that ABA is effective across the board, right? And how I think we need to think about us as mentors and supervisors. How do we keep that quality? We're proud of the quality that we're producing, and we want to make sure that future generations will continue to provide high quality services. And I think hopefully by looking at it from that lens, hopefully that will encourage a lot of individuals to, you know, become a mentor and become a supervisor. I will say it's not easy. It is definitely time investment, and not just time, but you know, if you look at the logistics of providing supervision according to like the BCBA or according to the college in the near future, there's definitely a lot of requirements and making sure that we meet those standards and requirements. But I think the benefits really outweigh a lot of the effort that we put in. I think, you know, like it's seeing that future generation of BCBAs that's always exciting to me.
Me too. That's a really, really good way of illustrating, you know, the impact that mentorship can make.
Yeah.
And I love that you say it is a service to the field, but it's mutually beneficial because, like you, I am so passionate about the field.
Yeah.
And our very existence as a field that provides quality services depends on that ongoing supervision and mentorship dynamic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can easily drift into a world of, you know, not providing the same effectiveness.
Right.
So that it's a core element of what we do. So yes, it's a service. Yes, it is work.
Yeah.
But the return is, like you said, it's the kids and the outcomes.
Yes.
And if you don't do that, you're going to lose that.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely necessary. And one of the things that I sometimes reflect on is, you know, when I started in the field, I started because just like you, like we saw the impact on the kids and I was like, this is amazing. And I can't believe we're doing this.
Yeah.
And that was my reinforcer, you know, for my professional development and my, you know, my why is like, this is amazing. I can impact this kid and this, and then the family and beyond. Now too, having grown as a supervisor in the field, the ripple effect of the impact that you can make as a supervisor and mentor is huge. Like it's such a good reinforcer when people are thinking about, you know, okay, yes, how can I be a good supervisor? How can I be a good mentor? How can I help, you know, the next generations? Think about too, like the impact that you make through the people that you also help, right? Yeah. Whether or not they're going to work with you forever, okay, fine. Like some, I would love for them all too. Don't get me wrong. Like, please stay. Yeah. But even if you go beyond one of my mentors, Dr. Jim Carr, and I'm paraphrasing, that he said to me, of the many mentors I've had, he said to me at some point, and it really stuck with me, was like, you know, like think about all the people that you're helping train through, you know, ABA and understanding quality services and delivery of ABA. And then they're going out there and they're delivering it to those kids, right? Like the impact that you're making through them.
For sure.
Think about the impact that, like, how many people have you done that for? And then they do that for somebody else. And I sort of thought about that in my head and could see that as like, that's the ripple effect.
Right.
Of what we get to do. So it has so many benefits to it.
For sure. And I think thinking about that too, that came from the experience that I received as a mentee from my previous mentors. And I think it is thanks to them who also provided me with like really great supervision and that mentorship that I can now, I feel kind of like just pay it forward, right? And yeah, that's a really nice way of looking at that. And I do agree with you. Not all of my supervisees will stay with me for the rest of their lives, which I'm totally okay with. I think everybody needs to have the experience of working with different supervisors, I always say. But yeah, hopefully, my hope is I've made a bit of impact on their lives and on the lives of the individuals that they serve. So.
Absolutely. It's a service to you. Paying it forward. I think about paying it forward.
For sure.
Because like you, I continue to be a mentee.
Yeah.
It never ends. That's another
too.
thing for people to think about is this never ends. And I have phone a friends. You're one of them, Joan. That I say, Joan, can you I don't know. I need, I need a different, of course, with proper consents and confidentiality and all that stuff.
Of course.
But, it's always you can be both. You can be a mentor and a mentee.
Absolutely.
Supervisor, supervisee. And so I was so blessed, just like you, to have some really, really wonderful people who have influenced me in my career.
Yeah.
And it's a pay it forward, right?
Yeah.
Like that's part of it too.
For sure.
And related to that, I get sort of these questions, and I'll ask you the same question is, so where do you get your, of course, I understand trouble hiring BCBAs, okay?
Yeah.
Like, where do you get your, and now in Ontario, we're going to have regulation, we're going to have registered behavior analysts as well. And so, but this isn't even beyond Ontario. This is a common talk. I talk with lots of different, professionals out there, and it's like, where can you find a BCBA? And so, and so my thought is like, well, great, if you can find them, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
They're probably taken.
Right.
So like, what are we going to do here? We need to grow the field. So thoughts on, expansion of where do you find your BCBAs, Joe? You've kind of already touched on this, but just to highlight this,
I think I will also say that, some of the BCBAs that I currently work with, some of them we've actually trained from when they started in the field as instructor therapists.
That's right. Yes.
I think it is due to supervision and mentorship that they are now invested in the field, and then they want to then pursue like graduate school in the field and slowly become certified as a BCBA. So I think that's one way, because I agree with you, like everybody's probably at capacity, right? Like it's not always easy to find BCBAs out there, but I think really look at the individuals who are working with you right now.
Yeah.
I think if we provide them with mentorship and good supervision, I think they're going to be invested in this field and seeing the impact that they have on kids. And again, ripple effect, now I'm going to use that
you can use
quite
it.
a bit.
Absolutely.
Is that, right? Like they see the impact of their work, and now hopefully they'll get invested in wanting to continue in the field.
Yeah, and as you're talking, because sometimes you don't think about how to define this stuff as you're doing it, because you just do it every day.
Yeah.
But I think what you're also saying is that it's identifying within the pool of individuals that are working with you, opportunities, giving them opportunity, having conversations.
Yes.
And I know I've had many experiences with wonderful staff who they may not even conceive graduate studies or supervision until we as the supervisors open the door and say, you really got a knack for this, right? And like, have you ever thought about, you don't need to do it tomorrow, we're going to take steps, but there's a process and we can support you in that. So
for sure.
Being open to showcasing opportunities to staff who may not otherwise think.
Yeah, absolutely.
To explore.
Absolutely. And I do work with a lot of staff who are, again, like where I was starting in a field of psychology that's quite wide. And not having like a specific sort of specialization in mind, and not working with them. I think having that conversation with them is always important. So.
Yeah. And did you ever think about this?
Yeah.
I mean, not like,
for sure.
Because we don't know when we start. It's, even though, the word is getting out there progressively more and more. It's not something like when you're in high school, people are thinking about, I want to be a behavior analyst. I would love for us to get there.
Yes.
But I would say it's
One
not
day.
mainstream.
Not yet.
Not yet. We're working on that. But so some of it is just people sampling it, just like we did.
Yeah.
And then, catching the bug for this and in a positive way. It's like, yeah, I really like this. Like I feel this here. And then showcasing opportunities. It's important for anyone who's watching, who maybe right now, and I know you're out there because I hear from you and saying like, I am having a hard time finding I want to provide more help for kids because that's what this is all about. And within ABA and autism, necessarily, there's that tiered service delivery model. And I just don't have enough supervisors. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
Right.
And of course, there's nothing wrong with the job postings and all that other stuff.
No.
We've all gone there, but thinking beyond that and creating systems for growth.
Right.
I really think that's a key to a lot of the challenges that we're facing in terms of giving as many kids quality services as we can.
Absolutely.
You, speaking of systems, because we've had conversations about this, you are so good at this. You have developed systems within Launch and even beyond on how to get people from that front line, super important. I'm of the belief, at least when it comes to ABA and autism service delivery, that you kind of have to do that stuff. Like you just got to like master that. If you want to be a supervisor, I mean, you can't, there's no way to jump around because you're going to teach other people how to do that stuff.
Right.
So you've conceived this like flow through for people who are interested in professional development. And, we won't have time today to go into all the little specifics. And I know you've got like, flow charts or Excel sheets or, like every good behavior analyst should, and, different breakdowns of skills. But, at a larger level for people who are exploring these possibilities of how they can help the next generation of supervisors and service more kids, thoughts you have, insights that you can share about what works in that regard.
For sure. I think on a systems level, I really use a lot of strategies from OBM, Organizational Behavior Management, right? There's a lot that we can learn from. It is, part of ABA, but I know it's a bit more niche in terms of the applications of it. But from a systems level where I'm working right now, we definitely have created sort of pathways for our instructor therapists to grow within the company. Right. So understanding that not all of them want to become BCBAs, which is also okay. But I think trying to provide different sort of roads on, continuing to stay within the company. Some of them may want to take on that BCBA pathway. Some of them may want to take on different pathways. So I think having that has been helpful just so that our instructors, our sort of therapists can see where they can grow within the company. And then in addition to that, I love talking about supervision, creating systems. That's definitely my jam.
Yes.
And having those systems in place to make sure that our supervisees or those who are pursuing this career know exactly what's expected out of them and know, and figuring out ways to get them to be proficient in not just delivery of ABA, but them to become future supervisors in ABA programs. I think it's all about creating systems, like you said, and giving individuals sort of different options and choices. And for those who are interested in becoming BCBAs, also have good supervision and training systems in place to make sure that they succeed.
Absolutely. I love that. The pathways, we do something similar at Breakthrough, and there can be different roads, right? Like you said, not everybody wants to be a BCBA, and that's actually good because we need a lot of different people,
of course.
In a lot of different areas, but creating those opportunities, we have different paths even for people who might want to be like trainers of instructors or relief staff, or then we've got, our BCBA track or even beyond. So, for people, again, thinking about how do we help more kids? You got to create those pathways. And then it lends itself to the opportunities.
For sure.
And as you said, having a system in place to support skill development within supervision, conceiving that within organizations. We do it too. It's always evolving. I'll also plug now one of my other mentors who's been wonderful in my career. I'm so blessed. Dr. Linda LeBlanc.
Right.
She's wonderful. I've done some wonderful work with her. And she has a wonderful book with another one of her colleagues, Tyra Sealers, and on supervision.
That's right.
We've used that just as one example. I'm not saying that's the only one, but it's a wonderful textbook that really helps. And we've done at times like chapters of the book, and there's exercises. So, for people who are conceiving this, there are some really good tools out there
for sure
for people to use. I don't know if you have other ones that come to mind. That's one of my ones that I like, but
that's also one that I also use quite a bit. So, and I think I just want to kind of go back to that. I still remember as a field when we started adding supervision into the ethics code.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we are aging ourselves here.
It's okay. Yeah.
I don't remember. It was now, people I think realizing, or the BACB, I think at that time started incorporating sort of supervision into like the task list or ethics code. And that's also, I think, it has evolved from there, right? Now we have wonderful like resources and textbooks available. But, I think I remember back at that time when we didn't have a lot to use as a resource. What I'm trying to say is that I think going back, we've been talking about how the field is always evolving. And, I think the aspect of supervision is, I think, very much now sort of embedded in a lot of the training programs too, which is good.
It's very good. It's in our code. There's consideration. It wasn't there so much before. The tools, I mean, I think if I look back in the day, I think you had basically like the task list to work off of, right? Which was good. It was good.
Of course.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. But, now we have supplemental resources and materials to help figure out all of those different pieces. It's not just, okay, I don't know, do your own research or something. I'm not sure. We navigated it. It's fine.
We did.
But I think to your point about where we've come, it's a recognition of how important it is, right? The fact that there is a lot more resources and emphasis in different respects is people have progressively recognized that it is key to all of this. And at the end of the day, and I always like to bring it back to like, why does this all matter? It's the ability to service, right?
Absolutely.
And a take-home point of a lot of the things that you're talking about is that there is a lot of preparation and thought in terms of systems to make this right. It's not, and it's going to take a lot of time.
It will.
It just is. Like I say sometimes to my staff, like, and you too, like you have a lot of different experiences with different kids, and we work with kids with autism and teens and whatnot, and of course it's a spectrum, and so I wish I could just like take all those different cases that are in my brain and just go zoop and like, basically download the file.
Right.
It's not going to happen. No. I joke too, the AI will not solve this problem, I'm telling you, because our population, which is so cool that we work with, they are so dynamic and diverse, and they're all their own unique selves, which is super awesome. So what does that mean for our supervisors? Mentored, supervised experience across multiple cases is absolutely necessary, and it's going to take time.
Yes.
That's it.
It will. And my supervision sort of systems that I've created, I still have to modify it. I still have to change it. So it's not like a one-time deal where I created the system and that's all we're going to use, right? Because again, we have to make it fit to our learner. And in this case, it's not necessarily the clients, but the mentees that we supervising. So and you go, like I never thought about that. Like sometimes in supervision sessions, or
I did a survey with Dr. Linda LeBlanc, Dr. Bridget Taylor. It was an amazing study to be a part of, where we surveyed people's supervisory experience when it came to like compassionate care and like how did they get trained in that area. And I remember reading the individual responses from people who responded to the survey. Thank you to those that did anonymously.
It was a great study, by the way.
Thank you. And it was really interesting because there was things that people said that were like, like I never thought about that, like that being a valued experience or something that was really hard. One of the ones that really stood out to me was the articulation from some different respondents that they get trained in all sorts of different things, and
Yeah.
they're really important. One of the things that they know is really important, but it's really hard for them, is sometimes with families, necessarily things can be tough or emotional,
Yeah.
and they really want to support families through, some of those more emotionally challenging times within their scope of practice.
For sure.
But it's hard, right?
is, yeah.
Child's maybe not learning a skill as fast enough
Yeah.
as family would like them to, and even the supervisor would like them to. And people saying that they don't really know how to help families with that,
Yeah.
and they, would like more supervised experience on how to help families. And it was like, that one always stood out at me. It was like, okay, we need somehow, how can I better support
Yeah.
the people I supervise in terms of navigating some of the softer areas that families may,
Yeah.
come to be with, and thinking about how I can do better for my supervisees with that. But that just came out from experience. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I got to think about that one too.
Yeah.
Anything like that for you, that over the years you've evolved and said, okay, yeah, I got to, add this to my deck of supervision, or things that are kind of tricky that for supervisees to learn that we have to think about as a field?
I think not necessarily. I think that's one of the things that I do think about is the soft skills. I think that's not always easy to teach. I think a lot of that, like you said, it has to be modeled by your supervisor. A lot of that happens sort of in vivo, right? As you can't predict when a parent might come in upset, for example.
That's right, yeah.
Or you might be given like a bit of a difficult case, or you might be put in a big meeting with school and other professionals and how to handle that situation. Right now, for me, lately, I've been focusing a lot on just problem solving skills. And what that is, when you have a learner who might not be making as much progress as they should, what are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself to come up with a solution that's also backed by evidence and science? So I've really been working on that. Navigating difficult conversations with people that they supervise, that's always been a good topic that I've been doing quite a bit too. So I run sort of monthly group supervision with the people I supervise, and during those times it's like always a good opportunity to practice some of the skills that they don't typically, like we get so busy on a day-to-day basis, right? And like using that time to practice that. But yeah, definitely navigating, giving difficult feedback is always a good one.
That's a good one too,
Yeah. But and also really focusing on like that compassionate care, like how do we approach families? What do we do when families come and they're, or like a parent who might be, have
in a tough
questions, tough
situation.
situations. And I think really focusing on asking for help for the actual clinicians, how to ask for help from other clinicians.
That's a major skill to know.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to help this family. I want to help this child.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Right.
And so, that's why I let the teams, I'm big on this too, independent practices, which is very rare, but, operating on your own is really tough. And it's okay if you do that, find ways to have a network of people that you can connect with to figure that stuff out. I love the monthly supervision, love the problem solving.
Yeah.
It's so dynamic.
Yeah.
And sometimes we call it like your tricky questions, like bring your tricky questions within all of those different areas that you've highlighted, right? And it is experiential, like you said, like stuff just comes up and then the group can learn from it.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about group supervision that I love too.
Yeah.
It's also, to be frank, as we've said too, in terms of time, you need the individual supervision, but the group can help people who are looking to support in a supervisor role in terms of efficiency.
Yeah.
But it's also not compromising quality, because to have a lot of people in group together talking, people can learn from each other. It's so great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Taking that and taking it one step further, because you have really great experiences in this too, talking about capacity building, and you have experience with capacity building in more remote rural areas.
Right.
Thank you for doing that, Joan. Joan's taken a lot of great flights into small places. Thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really important. Again, in order to help build capacity, because this is something I hear often, at different levels, again, of people who are trying to solve this dilemma. Like, it's hard, and it is even hard in like major urban cities that we operate in, and there's still a need for capacity there. But now you amplify that challenge when you start to talk about more, remote rural communities.
Yeah.
So again, it's not going to be something that we solve overnight.
Right.
But based on some of your experiences, and interesting because you've intersected with the clinical and educational.
Yeah.
You've helped build capacity because you have that education teaching background too, which is amazing. So irrespective of whether it's clinical or educational, we want people to be doing ABA and doing it well,
Right.
And we need it in so many places.
Yeah.
Really hard in these smaller communities. Based on some of your knowledge and expertise that you've learned in all of this, what are some things that we can do to help build capacity in areas that are harder to serve?
Yeah. I think one of the things that we've been doing is providing training to, specifically, I think, for what I've been doing is providing training with the teachers, for the teachers as well as the school staff, those who are considered sort of teaching assistants, or like working or supporting like individual students in the schools. What I find is important is not just training as in like a 2-day workshop or a 3-day workshop, but following that up with like actual support in the classrooms, right? So, if we're sort of training some of the strategies or principles in ABA, how that can be applied in the classroom, that might be done sort of in that workshop setting, but also following that up with in classroom experience. So like having, for us anyways, having a BCBA going to the classrooms and like, hey, remember we talk about reinforcement systems? Like, what can we do to like help that in the actual classroom? So I feel like that has been hopefully a successful way to build capacity in a way that providing that training and following up, and then hopefully in the future is that they might be able to apply similar strategies with the students that they're supporting in the classroom. I think that was one of your questions.
Yeah, that was great.
I had another thought about this too. Before we even get there is to build relationship with the communities that we want to serve.
That's a great tip.
Like sometimes it might take time to be a trusted resource. So really building that relationship might be the first step, and then providing the services and building capacity from there. But
I love that. That's a really, really good point for people to think about, because necessarily, I don't know how else we can get around this, but some of us, and thankfully you're doing this, and anybody else watching who wants to take this on, you go for it.
Yes.
We're going to have to bring expertise at the beginning from other communities into other communities so that we can have the ripple effect, right?
Right.
So, okay, we know that. We want to, expand our horizons and build capacity.
Yeah.
So, but obviously every community is unique and dynamic. So really thinking about those relationships at the beginning comes to mind. Even like our Indigenous communities, we hear a lot about how there's need within the Indigenous communities to help support skill building for kids in need. And so we want to help. We got to understand and build those relationships. I love that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, as you're saying, and I totally agree, you do all this important training and background information stuff, whatever that's going to look like. The boots on the ground in vivo has to be some of it too.
For sure.
It really does.
For sure.
That's when people learn.
Yes, absolutely.
Through those like real life case examples.
That's right.
So, again, like conceiving for all of us, like how do we build systems for that, is a really important aspect. Yeah. So, we've touched on capacity building, supervision, so many important, questions that we as a field need to be answering to help the clients that we serve. Last question for you in all of this, because it all starts with how we started, right? Yeah. And so if there are professionals out there looking around and, trying to figure out what to do, it's incumbent on us to say, hey, ABA. It's like
Yeah.
this amazing. Have you thought about it? It's
Right,
awesome. So,
right.
what would you say to people thinking about this as a career? Why ABA for them?
Oh my gosh, where do I start?
Yeah.
It is so rewarding. I think we are making positive changes in a lot of individuals' lives, a lot of families. What's also awesome about it is how systematic it is. And you see behavior change, right? Like you actually see the impact of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think the number one thing is it's just very, very rewarding to be in this field and to be able to see the impact that we're making on a lot of children and families and beyond. So
It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
I think it's such a blessing.
Yeah.
I think about this all the time, every day I wake up. How lucky are we
Yeah.
to be in a field where you literally go to work every day
Yeah.
and you directly through your work are making an impact in a person's life.
For sure.
No doubt about it. On that day. For
Exactly.
sure. Maybe probably more than one.
Yeah.
And I don't think most people can say that about their careers.
Right.
At times they make impact.
Yeah.
But it's such a blessing to be in a field like that. So
Yeah.
people are looking for that type of meaningful work. And it is work. It's tough.
It is. It
at
is very
times.
tough.
But that's what makes it even sweeter.
Yeah.
It's the reward. So
For
that's
sure.
a great way to, characterize all the great work that you do and so many of us do. And we hope more people do.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
your insight,
Thank
Joan,
you
in
for
this part
inviting me.
2. Yeah. Supervision and capacity building, and thank you for all the wonderful work you do. And we thank you for that.
Oh, likewise, Nancy. I know you also do a lot of great work. So
Thanks.
thank you.